artist. How's it going? Let's learn about graphite. A little bit about my history with graphite. I started drawing with graphite. I think pretty much everybody starts drawing with graphite. Graphite is just a fancy term for pencils. There are a lot of different types of pencils. I started out just with a regular mechanical pencil, something like this, or what you would use for just regular homework. And eventually I learned that you can shade with graphite and you can blend with graphite. And then my drawings started having shadows and shades and all this other type of shit. So that's what I'm gonna tell you about today. Give you a few tips on blending and shading and just drawing with graphite, and hopefully it'll help a little bit of you guys out. So like I mentioned, there are a few different kinds of graphite pencils. You have your regular mechanical pencils, you have wood pencils that you use for school or whatever you use wood pencils for. Sets of pencils, you have ebony pencils, you have woodless graphite pencils. There's so many different types of graphite pencils out there. The main ones that I use are mechanical pencils and sets of pencils. And I also have an ebony pencil that I don't use, but from the size of it you would think that I do use it. I'll explain in a second. So when you're using graphite pencils that come in set, like these pencils right here, these are the Prismacolor turquoise pencils, and these are the soft pencils. So they range from different softness, I think H through 9B. Yeah, H through 9B. So there's a bunch of different softness. H stands for hard and B stands for blackness or black, whatever. B is the soft pencils, let's just say that. So if you have a 2B pencil, that's soft, and then if you have a 9B pencil, that's really soft, and it's gonna give you the most dark shading, if that makes sense. You also have H pencils, which would be hard pencils, and those range from H to 9H, I believe. So 9H would be the hardest pencil, 9B would be the softest pencil. And then you have ebony pencils, which in my opinion give almost the same darkness as a 9B pencil. I'm not sure why ebony pencils are a thing. And then you have F pencils. This set has an F pencil, and F stands for fine. You can sharpen an F pencil to a really sharp point and get a fine point. So you can do a lot of details with an F pencil. I don't ever use my F pencil. I might use it for sketches, but I also use the HB pencil for sketches. An HB pencil is kind of like a medium in between soft and hard. It's not hard enough to not be black, but it's also not soft enough to give you dark tones, if that makes sense. Things you can use to blend your graphite. First and foremost, you can use your finger. When I started shading, I used my finger because I didn't know of any other way to smear graphite. I don't really recommend this because your fingers are oily, and whenever you're shading with your finger, it can leave fingerprints in your art. The only time I use my finger to smear something out or blend something out is if I'm using, say, a white charcoal pencil and I need to blend that out. I just use my finger to blend it out because it's not really gonna leave that much of a fingerprint in my art. The main thing that I use for blending is a tissue or a Kleenex. At the moment, I don't have any tissues, so I've been using this microfiber cloth, and it has graphite on it, as you can see. So I use that, and the way I use it is I just wrap it around my finger and just blend on it. Go, bitch. Nope, just blend that shit out. You can also use Q-tips for, say you're shading an eyeball and you have to get like in the corner of your eye right here and blend out something that's really small. You can use a Q-tip, or you can use a blending stump, and I use blending stump a lot. These are freaking old. Like, I've had these for like maybe 4 years, I don't know. These are also good for blending. With blending stumps, you also have different sizes of blending stump. These are the main two sizes that I use, and they are a size, which one is this? I don't know. This is a big ass blending stump. I don't know what size it is, it doesn't say. And then this one, which is a size 6. I use this for shading around the eyes and around the nose and lips, and I use this for shading huge areas like maybe a cheek or something like that. Another supplies that I recommend having if you're doing graphite drawing is a kneaded eraser, and I love playing with these. These are good for also blending. You can erase with them and they don't leave any fucking crumbs behind. You can do a lot of things with this and graphite. Another thing that you're gonna use and that you're gonna probably want to keep around is a sharpener. This is just a Staedtler sharpener. I don't use electric sharpeners because they eat away your pencil very quickly. And as for the type of paper that's best for drawing with graphite, I would recommend sketch paper or drawing paper for rendered drawings. So now that we've gone over the paper, the types of pencils, and the things that you can use to blend, I'm gonna take you over to my art desk and show you a few techniques that I use to achieve the shading and blending that I do. So let's go! First things first, I want to show you guys the difference between an ebony pencil and a 9B pencil, because I think that there are very, very few differences here. The main difference would be that I think an ebony pencil is a lot harder to erase than a 9B pencil. So this is my 9B Prismacolor turquoise pencil, and this is a Prismacolor ebony pencil. I guess I'll just show you the difference between the two. A 9B pencil is very soft and very flat. You can use it to get the most rich tones. And then a ebony pencil is even blacker, and I'm not coloring with much force here. They look pretty much identical to me. The only thing I would use an ebony pencil for is if I was drawing on a huge piece of paper and I had a really, really dark area that I needed to shade, instead of wasting my expensive graphite pencils. I'll also show you the difference in how they erase, because I feel like an ebony pencil does not erase as well as a 9B pencil. This is an ebony pencil being erased. As you can see, there's still a bunch left. If I were doing a drawing and I accidentally colored something really dark and decided I didn't want it to be that dark, I'd be kind of screwed, because you can still see a bunch of the residue left over. There's still a bit of residue left over, but not as much as the ebony pencil, and I feel like I could easily correct this, and this would be a lot harder to correct if I were doing a drawing that I accidentally messed up. So this drawing is a good example of a drawing that took a lot of 9B pencils, and I used an ebony pencil for the shirt. As you can see, it's really dark. This took probably a good portion of an ebony pencil, and I didn't want to waste my 9B pencil filling in all of this dark blackness. Also in the hair, a little bit reflective. This is an example of how dark an ebony pencil and a 9B pencil can be. When I start on portraits, I start with an initial sketch, and usually I'll use either an HB pencil, which if I can get it out of the case, thank you. I'll use an HB pencil, or I'll use an F pencil. The F pencil, like I said earlier, can be sharpened to a fine point, and the HB pencil is just kind of my standard for sketching. So if I need something that has really fine lines, I'll use this one. So I'll start with a messy sketch, and I'm just gonna kind of sketch out an eyeball here. I'm not going for anything pretty. So that's my eyeball. Here's the HB pencil. I do feel like the HB pencil is a little bit softer than the fine point pencil, but not too much of a difference. So I'll start laying down a bit of graphite and just drawing around with it. I'm not trying to be perfect here. In a sketch, I'm rarely ever perfect. I have messy lines and really, really light lines. So say this is my final sketch and I'm ready to start shading. Whenever I start shading around eyes, there's a lot of tight lines around here, and I don't want to use a Kleenex because I use these for blending large areas. I use blending stumps for blending small areas and things that I can't define with a Kleenex or a microfiber cloth, whichever one you're using. Say I need a shadow right up here underneath the eyelid. I will use the graphite that I already have laying on the paper and the graphite that is already on the blending stump, and just start going in tiny circular motions with the lightest hand that you can possibly have. And then I'll end up losing this initial initial line right here, so I'll go back and redefine it because usually it's always darker up underneath the eyelid. When it gets to the pupil and I find myself needing to shade it darker, I will move up in softness. Right now I'm using an HB pencil. I might decide that I want to use a 3B pencil, which is this one right here. And now I can get darker shadows. And I usually always shade in a circular pattern. It doesn't really matter. I just find that shading circular gives me the best outcome. And then as I move down the iris, I start to lighten my hand so that it creates a gradient effect. And then I decide I want to blend that out, so I'll take my blending stump again. And blending stumps do pick up a bit of the graphite, so whenever you're blending, your dark areas are gonna lighten up a little bit, so then I'll go back in with a darker graphite pencil and shade it a little bit more. And you can repeat that as much as you need. Shade, blend, shade, blend, shade, blend, until you get your desired shade. Then, say I wanted to start shading a larger area, like a cheek. If I don't have many sketchy lines in the face area, let me just create a quick face shape here. And then say I wanted to give somebody pronounced cheekbones. Well, I don't have very many sketch lines here like I did with this, where I can just start shading with the sketch lines. So what I would do is go and lay in a little bit of graphite around in the cheek area, and then I would take my Kleenex, let's just call it a Kleenex, and wrap it around my finger and go, no, no, bitch, and start shading. No, bitch, no. Until I got what I wanted. That's awful. Don't pay attention to that. I would lay down some graphite and then tell that bitch no. Tell her no. And again, I go in circles. And this also lightens your lines. If you want it to be darker than that, go back in, maybe a little bit darker this time. And notice that I'm using the side of my pencil, because if you use the tip of your pencil, you get really fine lines. I don't want that. I want broad lines because they're easier to shade. And then I would go back in and I would tell that bitch no. And then say you wanted it to be lighter out towards this way, I would just use the excess graphite that I have on my Kleenex already and start blending it out that way. Just like that. Now you can also use your finger, like I said earlier. However, you have to be careful, because if your fingers are moist or oily, ugh, that word moist is fucking gross. It'll move the graphite in a way that looks really weird. It'll stand out from the rest. See how this is almost uniformly blended? You'll see like a fingerprint here that's darker than the rest of the shading around it. That's why I stopped using my finger. I'm sure a lot of you guys have shaded with your finger before, but I also find that it doesn't really work that much. So that would be shading with your finger, and then you have graphite on your finger. Say that you go to do something and you accidentally smear your drawing. That's why I don't use my finger. So say you laid down some shade and it was too dark and you wanted to lighten it up. What I like to do is get my kneaded eraser and a little bit warm. So play with it in your hands a little bit, and then take it and just dab on your drawing, and it lightens it up. So it gradually lifts the graphite off instead of going in with a regular eraser and having to just wipe it all away and start again. So I think that's about it for my tips and tricks. If I forgot anything, or if you have any more questions, leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer it for you. Alright you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to smack that ass on that like button. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. All the links are in the description below. You can also subscribe. We do art things. Alright you guys, I'll see you in the next video, and remember, don't quit your daydream.
We'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays.